Hello, in this video we will expose the exit arbitration process regarding the case of Bear Creek Mining versus the state of Peru. My name is Andrés, and before my partner exposes you the decisions that the tribunal made, I'm going to show you first the facts that led to the arbitration process. Second, a brief explanation about how the arbitration process in exit works. And lastly, the initial arguments and objectives of each part, both from Bear Creek Mining and the state of Peru. First, it is necessary to acknowledge the facts. Bear Creek Mining is a mining corporation from Canada that specializes in extracting silver, specifically from Peru. This corporation was looking to get permission to extract silver from a region in Peru called Santa Ana that is located in the frontier of Bolivia, but still in the territory of Peru. Now, according to Peruvian constitutional law, mining permissions for this area are only granted through an executive decree, meaning that the government itself has to approve the corporation to be able to mine and extract silver from there. According to the award, a Bear Creek employee from Peru had already been able to obtain permission for mining in Santa Ana, but only some time later, Bear Creek Mining as a corporation itself managed to get permissions through Superior Decree number 038, which meant that Bear Creek had legal permission to explore and extract silver from the region. Nevertheless, in 2011, Peruvian government authorities demanded Bear Creek Mining to perform a social and environmental impact study. And then, after the study was done, they requested the corporation to involve the population of Santa Ana in the decision-making process of the mining operation. Well, here, in this case, the population opposed directly to the mining operation, not only through votes, but also through pacific and violent manifestations. This led to decree number 032, issued by the newest government of Peru, that revoked decree 038, which meant that it revoked all the permissions that Bear Creek had before to extract silver from Santa Ana. A few years later, in 2014, the request for arbitration was made before exit from Bear Creek, and a few years later, in 2017, in November, the award was released, meaning that the court had reached a final decision. Now, the process of arbitration and exit works through 10 specific steps. But in summary, one of the parties requests or files a claim for arbitration for the tribunal. If this claim is accepted, the arbitrators are selected and designated, and the tribunal is constituted, starting officially the process. There are sessions, hearings, a reaching process, and an oral process, after which the tribunal deliberates and discusses on what decision should they make, and then they dispose of the case through an award, which means that they release a document in which they state all the proceedings, the arguments of each part, and lastly their conclusion and their decision. In terms of arguments, the state of Peru argued that the court had no jurisdiction over the issue, and even if it did, the claims that Bear Creek Mining brought to the table had no merit. On the other hand, Bear Creek Mining argued that the actions and emissions of Peru were illegal since they acted in violation of the free trade agreement they signed with Canada, and they also argued that Decree 032, which was the one that revoked the permissions to explore and extract silver from the area, were an unjustified and uncompensated expropriation. When it comes to the objectives, Peru's position was very simple. They wanted to be found innocent, and then they wanted Bear Creek to pay for all the arbitration costs, meaning that they wanted them to pay for the tribunal fees, the lawyer fees, both from Bear Creek's and from Peruvian expense. On the other hand, the corporation solicited a few things. First, a declaration from the tribunal that Peru violated the free trade agreement and as such acted against public international law. Second, a compensation for all the damages that it caused. Third, payment for all the arbitrational costs, again meaning lawyers, tribunal fees, etc. And lastly, a payment of all the money that Bear Creek Mining had invested in Peru.
Hi, my name is Avila, and now I'm going to present you the reasonings of the tribunal. So the first thing that the tribunal said was that the decree 032 issued by the Peru government to the Bear Creek Corporation was an indirect expropriation. Why? Because according to Article 812 of the Free Trade Agreement, it accomplished with these three elements. It caused an economic impact, it interferes with the investment expectation, and it was based with the Peru rules. So in conclusion, the tribunal stated that it was an indirect expropriation. So the second statement analyzed whether the decree of the Peru government was lawful under the Article 812 of the Free Trade Agreement. So this article established that the decree has to be unprompt, adequate, non-discriminatory, and has to give an effective compensation. The Peru government in the indirect expropriation gave these three elements, but they didn't give the effective compensation. So in conclusion, the tribunal said that it was a decree that is unlawful and an indirect expropriation. Then the parties asked the tribunal to solve the following problems. So first, whether the respondent afforded fair and equitable treatment. Second, whether the respondent afforded full and protection security. And third, whether the respondent complied with any duty to afford claimants protection against discrimination. For these problems, the tribunal gave the same solution to the three. It says that the parties didn't give any legal arguments to solve these problems, and they say that they already stated this is an unlawful indirect expropriation, so solving these problems would not add any consequences to the already stated status. As the tribunal said, the indirect expropriation was unlawful. This means that there is a breach in an obligation, which means that there has to be a compensation. So the tribunal had to make the standard compensation. The claimant, that is the corporation, said that they wanted to have the compensation reference to the potential profitability of the Santa Ana project, but the tribunal didn't accept this. They said that they would accept that the measure of the damage were reference to the amounts actually invested on the project. So after determining the standard compensation, there was a process of accountability. Well, all the counts for the damages and all the bad effects for the investment of the corporation were done. Finally, the corporation said to the tribunal that they wanted 21.8 million, but the tribunal said that that was a really high price. So they established that the price was going to be 18.2 because that was approximately what they invested when they came to Peru. So finally, the tribunal take the decisions of the case. So first, it ordered the respondent to pay 18.2 million to the corporation. Second, they ordered the respondent to pay the arbitrational costs of the corporation and their own costs of the arbitrational process. Third, they established that the interest compound for the 18.2 million will be of 5% rate, and this rate will begin to count since the day of the publication of the decree that decreed the indirect expropriation. Also, they said that the cost of the arbitrational process had also a 5% interest. And finally, all other claims that were posed by the parties were dismissed. These were the only solutions that the tribunal decided after all the discussion.